Most people think low intelligence shows up in bad grades, failed tests, or obvious mistakes. But neuroscience says the opposite. Your true intelligence reveals itself in tiny, everyday habits you probably don't even notice. And here's the terrifying part. These habits don't just make you appear less intelligent. They literally rewire your neural pathways, making your brain weaker and slower over time. So let's get brutally honest. How many of these silent intelligence killers are you repeating every single day? 1. Magical thinking. Some people live like the universe owes them luck. They wear the same lucky shirt to every interview. They avoid certain numbers. They genuinely believe a crystal or color controls their success. Seems harmless, maybe even charming, right? But psychology calls it magical thinking when your brain replaces logic with fantasy. Here's what happens. You wore red once and got a promotion. Now, your brain creates a permanent link that doesn't exist. You've outsourced your reasoning to superstition. Real intelligence asks, what's the actual evidence? Lower intelligence skips critical thinking entirely and builds a life on invisible rules. 2. Chronic sleep sacrifice. You brag about running on 4 hours of sleep. You scroll TikTok until 3 a.m., then drag yourself out of bed like a corpse. You call it hustle. Here's the reality neuroscience won't sugarcoat. After just one night of poor sleep, your brain functions like you're legally drunk. Memory collapses. Focus shatters. Decision-making becomes guesswork. Intelligent people treat sleep like their most valuable asset because they understand it's the foundation of everything. Lower intelligence sacrifices the one thing that makes them sharper and calls it dedication. It's not strength, it's self-destruction. And running from silence. Some people panic the second there's no noise. No TV, no music, no podcast, just silence. They feel exposed, uncomfortable, almost afraid. Psychology shows this constant need for distraction signals weak internal processing. Because here's the truth. Silence forces you to face your own thoughts. And if your thoughts feel overwhelming or empty, your brain learns to avoid them entirely. Smart people use solitude to reflect, plan, and grow. Low intelligence hides in noise because sitting with themselves for even 10 minutes feels unbearable. If you can't be alone with your mind, you're not being social, you're running. 4. Living on filler conversations. You know the type. They can talk for hours about weather, traffic, what day of the week it is, but nothing real. Small talk is fine as a warm-up. But if that's all you've got, it's a red flag. Psychologists call it low need for cognition, the inability or unwillingness to engage in real thinking. Intelligent people crave conversations about ideas, questions that challenge them, topics that make them grow. Lower intelligence sticks to surface-level filler because deeper thinking feels like work. 5. Confidence without substance. We've all seen it. The loudest voice in the room interrupts everyone, explains things they clearly don't understand, speaks with total certainty about topics they Googled 5 minutes ago. But when you listen closely, there's nothing underneath. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. People who know the least often believe they know the most. True intelligence sounds different. It says, I don't know. Let me learn. It asks questions instead of performing certainty. Fake intelligence hides behind noise and volume. Real intelligence listens first. 1. Eyes are being. 6. Blindly obeying instructions. Some people follow rules like robots. The recipe says bake for 20 minutes, but the food is clearly raw. They eat it anyway. The instruction manual has an obvious error. They'll follow it off a cliff. This isn't discipline or respect for structure. It's mental laziness. Intelligent people adapt when reality contradicts the plan. Lower intelligence obeys without thinking, even when the outcome is disaster. Critical thinking means knowing when to question. Blind obedience means your brain has stopped checking. 1. Eyes are being. 7. Instant gratification addiction. Why wait when you can scroll, snack, swipe, or shop right now? The marshmallow experiment proved this decades ago. Kids who couldn't delay rewards struggled with money, health, and relationships for the rest of their lives. Because constant, instant gratification rewires your brain. It kills patience. It destroys focus. It trains you to avoid anything that requires effort. Intelligent people endure short-term discomfort for long-term rewards. Lower intelligence grabs every quick hit available and wonders why life feels empty. 1. Eyes also. 8. Doomscrolling into oblivion. 1 hour becomes 3. 3 becomes 5. Suddenly, it's 2 a.m. And you've absorbed nothing but rage bait, celebrity drama, and videos you'll never remember. Studies confirm, endless scrolling doesn't just waste time, it fries your attention span, rewires your dopamine system, turns your brain into a passive content sponge. Intelligent people consume information with intention, then create, reflect, or connect. Lower intelligence scrolls endlessly, calling distraction relaxation, and lets their brain slowly rot. If 3 or more of these hit home, breathe. This isn't about shame. It's about seeing what most people refuse to admit. And that awareness? That's already the first step toward rewiring everything. And here's the truth most people won't accept. Low intelligence isn't about your genetics, your education, or some test score from high school. It's about the invisible habits you choose to repeat. Every single day, keep these patterns, and your brain will slowly lock itself into mediocrity. Break them, and you'll feel the shift almost immediately in how you think, how you solve problems, how confidently you move through the world, and even in the way people start treating you. Intelligence isn't fixed, but it is a choice. And most people will nod along to this, scroll away, and go right back to the same habits, keeping them average. But if you're the rare type who actually wants to understand how your brain works at the deepest level, don't just watch, subscribe. Because every single week, I break down the raw psychology and neuroscience that nobody wants to say out loud, but that everyone desperately needs to hear. And remember, real intelligence doesn't announce itself. It watches, it learns, it evolves quietly. Be that person.